Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Over the next sessions, we are going to build something that I promise you will matter just as much in your engineering career as any line of code or any equation you will ever write. We are going to build your communication skills. Now, you might be thinking, I came here to study computer science, not to become a public speaker. I understand that. But here's the truth I want you to take away from this very first slide. Engineers who cannot communicate stay in the cubicle. Engineers who can communicate lead the team, lead the project, and eventually lead the company. This course is your foundation. We will start with the theory, move into oral skills, and finish with professional presentations. By the end, you will speak with confidence in any room you walk into. Let me walk you through how this course is organized, so you know exactly what is coming. The course is divided into 3 chapters, and each one builds directly on the one before it. Chapter 1 is the foundations. We will define what communication actually is, look at the 3 models that explain how messages travel between people, and break down the 6 elements that every communication act contains. Chapter 2 takes us into oral communication for engineers. This is where theory meets practice. We will study the 6 aspects of oral communication you will use every day, and we will go deep into active listening, which is honestly the skill most engineers neglect. Finally, Chapter 3 is professional and presentation skills. Real techniques, real vocabulary, real practice. 3 chapters, 1 goal to make you a confident communicator. We are now entering Chapter 1, Foundations of Communication. Before we can talk about how to give a great presentation or how to handle a difficult meeting, we have to step back and answer a more fundamental question. What is communication really? Most people think they already know. They have been talking since they were 2 years old. But communication in the technical sense is much more than just talking. It is a structured process with rules, with elements, and with multiple models that researchers have developed over decades. In this chapter, we will look at all of that. We will define the term, study 3 different models, identify the 6 elements, compare verbal with nonverbal, and finally explain why this matters for you specifically. Stay with me because everything we cover later depends on the foundation we lay right now. Let us start with the definition. The word communication comes from a Latin root meaning simply to share. And that is exactly what it is, the purposeful, active exchange of information between 2 or more people. The keyword here is purposeful. Random noise is not communication. A message that is not received is not communication either. Communication only happens when meaning is successfully transferred from one mind to another through a shared system of signs and symbols. Now, oral communication is a specific subset. It means communicating by speaking as opposed to writing, signing, or signaling. When you stand up in a team meeting and explain why your code crashed, that is oral communication. When you call a client to walk them through a fix, that is oral communication. It is real-time, it is interactive, and it carries far more nuance than text ever could. Researchers describe communication using 3 classic models, and each one captures something important. The first is the linear model. Sender encodes a message, transmits it through a channel, and a receiver decodes it, simple like a radio broadcast. The second is the interactional model. This adds feedback. The receiver replies, the sender adjusts, and the message moves back and forth in turns, like a walkie-talkie conversation. The third, and the most realistic, is the transactional model here. Both people are sending and receiving at the same time. Simultaneously, while I'm speaking, you are nodding, frowning, smiling, looking at your phone, and all of that is communication coming back to me in real time. As an engineer presenting a design review, you are operating in the transactional model. You are reading the room while you speak. That is the skill we are building. Every communication act, no matter how simple, contains 6 elements. Let us name them. First, the participants, the sender and the receiver, the people involved. Second, the channel, the medium that carries the message, voice through air, text through email, video through Zoom. Third, the message itself, the actual content being shared. Fourth, feedback, the receiver's response that tells the sender whether the message landed. Fifth, noise, and this is critical for engineers. Noise is anything that interferes with the message. It can be literal background sound, but more often it is psychological. Distraction, bias, fatigue, jargon the listener does not understand. Sixth, context, the surrounding situation, both physical and social, that shapes how the message is interpreted. Master these 6 elements, and you can diagnose any failed communication in any meeting, in any team. Here is something that should genuinely surprise you. According to the research of Albert Mehrabian, in face-to-face communication, only 7% of meaning comes from the actual words you say. 38% comes from your tone of voice, the pitch, the volume, the speed. And a full 55% comes from nonverbal cues. Your facial expression, your posture, your gestures, your eye contact. Think about that. The words are the smallest part, so when you stand up to present your project, what you say matters, but how you say it matters far more. A monotone delivery, slumped shoulders, eyes glued to the slides, and your audience switches off, no matter how brilliant your content is. The good news, nonverbal communication is a skill. It can be learned, practiced, and improved. We will work on it throughout this course. So why does any of this matter for a computer science engineer? Let me give you the practical answer. You will spend the next 4 years writing code, debugging systems, and solving technical problems. That is your craft. But the moment you step into a real job, you will discover that maybe 20% of your day is actually pure technical work. The rest is communication. Stand-ups, design reviews, sprint planning, client calls, documentation, mentoring junior engineers, pushing back on unrealistic deadlines. Studies of engineering teams consistently show that the engineers who get promoted, who become tech leads, who eventually become CTOs, they are not always the most brilliant coders. They are the ones who can explain their ideas clearly, who can listen carefully, and who can persuade others. Technical skill gets you in the door. Communication gets you up the stairs. Welcome to Chapter 2, Oral Communication for Engineers. We have laid the theoretical foundation. Now we get practical. In this chapter, we will look at the specific oral communication situations you will face as an engineering student and later as a working engineer. We will study 6 key aspects from formal presentations to negotiation. Then we will go deep into active listening, the 4 phases, the barriers that block it, and the 6 concrete techniques you can use to become a better listener starting today. I want to be honest with you. Most engineers I have worked with are bad listeners. They are eager to talk, eager to solve, eager to fix. But the engineer who listens first, who fully understands the problem before proposing a solution, is the engineer everyone wants on their team. Let us learn how. Let me get specific about why oral communication matters in your future career. As an engineering student, you will give presentations on your projects, your research findings, and your design choices. You will defend your senior project in front of a panel. You will pitch ideas at hackathons. You will attend conferences and networking events where you have 90 seconds to explain what you do. You will join collaborative projects where every meeting requires clear communication just to keep the project moving. You will receive feedback, criticism, and conflicting opinions from teammates, and you will need to handle them constructively. You will negotiate scope, deadlines, and resources with stakeholders. None of this is optional. None of it can be skipped. Strong oral skills are not a nice to have for an engineer. They are part of the job description, even when nobody writes them down explicitly. Let us name the 6 key aspects you will encounter. First, presentations, formally explaining your work, your findings, your design. Second, public speaking, addressing larger audiences at conferences, seminars, or recruiting events. Third, team meetings, the daily collaborative sessions where projects actually move forward. Fourth, active listening, paying full attention to peers and stakeholders so you understand what they actually need. Fifth, conflict resolution, handling the disagreements that inevitably appear when smart people work together on hard problems. Sixth, negotiation, finding agreements that balance the priorities of everyone involved, whether it is scope, timeline, or budget. Notice that only the first 2 involve standing in front of an audience. The other 4 are everyday skills. They happen in every stand-up, every pull request review, every one-on-one with your manager. We will work on all of them in this course. Active listening is not one skill, it is 4 sequential phases, and you have to do all of them well. Phase 1 is pre-listening. Before the conversation even starts, you prepare yourself. You set up a supportive environment, you ask questions to signal you want to hear, you come ready to receive. Phase 2 is during listening. You give nonverbal feedback, nodding, eye contact, and verbal feedback, agreement, empathy to show you're tracking. Phase 3 is post-listening, immediate. Right after they finish, you respond appropriately. You do not change the subject abruptly. You avoid judgmental reactions, and you encourage them to continue if needed. Phase 4 is post-listening, long-term. Hours, days, even weeks later, you reference what they said, you take action on it, or you explain why action was not taken. This last phase is what separates great listeners from average ones.
Real listening is hard, and the reason is that there are barriers everywhere. Let me name the 4 main categories. First, psychological barriers, lack of interest in the topic, or an inferiority complex that makes you defensive instead of receptive. Second, linguistic barriers, poor grammar knowledge that makes complex sentences hard to follow, or semantic problems where you simply do not know what a technical term means. Third, social barriers, a poor educational background that left gaps or cultural norms that say it is impolite to ask for clarification. Fourth, other perceived barriers, communicative incompetence and a simple lack of conversational strategies. Why does this matter? Because every single one of these barriers can be addressed once you name it. The first step to better listening is to recognize honestly which of these barriers shows up for you most often. Then you can work on it deliberately. Now let us get tactical. Here are 6 concrete techniques you can practice this week. 1. Pay attention to body language, both yours and theirs. Nod, make eye contact, lean in slightly. 2. Give encouraging verbal cues. Small phrases like yes, I see or signal that you are tracking. 3. Clarify and paraphrase. Repeat back what you heard in your own words to confirm you got it right. This is the single most powerful technique I know. 4. Ask questions. Open-ended questions invite the speaker to elaborate, and they show genuine interest. 5. Refrain from judgment. Stay neutral and open while you're listening. There will be plenty of time to evaluate later. 6. Summarize, share, and reflect. End with a quick recap. Share your honest perspective and follow up afterward. 6 techniques, practice 1 a week, and your listening transforms.
We are now in our final chapter: professional communication and presentation skills. This is where everything we have learned comes together. In this chapter, we will go through the entire arc of giving a professional presentation. We will start with what to do before you ever stand up, preparing, analyzing your audience, crafting your key message, structuring your content. Then we will work through how to actually deliver, opening strong, using transition vocabulary, explaining visuals, engaging the room, handling questions, and closing well. We will also tackle harder topics, the difference between formal and informal register, how to use storytelling for technical content, how to overcome stage fright, and how to dare to say no when you need to. By the end of this chapter, you will have a complete toolkit for any presentation situation an engineer can face. Let us begin.
The single biggest myth about presentations is that they happen on stage. They do not. Great presentations are built before you ever stand up. Preparation is where the work happens. There are 4 things you absolutely must do before any serious presentation. First, analyze your audience. Who are they? What do they already know? What do they need? Second, define your key message, the one sentence you want your audience to remember if they remember nothing else. Third, structure your content into a clear arc with introduction, body, and conclusion. Fourth, build the vocabulary you will need, openings, transitions, ways to explain visuals, ways to handle questions. Engineers love to dive straight into the slide deck. That is a mistake. Do the preparation first on paper or in your head. The slides come last. The preparation is what makes the difference.
Audience analysis is not optional. It is the foundation of everything else. Before you write a single slide, ask yourself this checklist of questions. Who exactly is in the room? Are they technical experts, mixed or non-technical? What is their level of familiarity with the topic? Do you need to define your terms? Or can you use jargon? What do they care about? What outcome are they hoping to get from your talk? What objections might they raise? What questions are they likely to ask? How much time do you have? Is the setting formal or informal? The same content presented to a room of senior engineers looks completely different from the same content presented to executives or to clients. The audience determines everything: your vocabulary, your level of detail, your examples, your tone. Skip this step and you will lose the room before you even begin.
Every presentation needs one, and only one, key message. If your audience walks out remembering only one sentence, what should that sentence be? Write it down. Make it short. Make it specific. Test it against this question: would my audience care? Would they take action? If the answer is no, the message is too vague or too generic. A good key message is concrete and memorable, not "our system is more efficient," but "our system reduces server costs by 40%. Once you have your key message, every other choice flows from it. The structure supports it, the data proves it, the visuals reinforce it, the closing repeats it. Engineers often try to deliver 3 or 5 messages at once and the audience remembers none of them. Pick one, build everything around it. That is the discipline of professional communication. Every presentation, no matter the topic, follows the same 3-part structure: introduction, body, conclusion. The introduction is where you grab attention. State your key message and tell the audience what you're about to cover. A simple formula: tell them what you're going to tell them. The body is the substance, 3 to 5 main points, each one supporting your key message, each one backed by evidence, data, examples, demonstrations. Use clear transitions between points, so the audience always knows where they are in your logic. The conclusion is where you close the loop. Restate your key message, summarize the main points, end with a clear call to action. What should they do, think, or decide as a result of your talk? Introduction, body, conclusion. It sounds basic, but disciplined use of this structure is what separates a professional presentation from a rambling one. The first 30 seconds of your presentation are the most important. They decide whether the audience leans in or starts checking their phones. So how do you open? You do not start with, "Hello, my name is today I will be talking about." That is the boring default and the audience tunes out instantly. Instead, open with a hook, a surprising statistic, a short, vivid story, a provocative question, a bold claim. Then, only after the hook, introduce yourself and state what the talk is about. Useful phrases: "Good morning. Let me start with a question that may surprise you," or "Imagine for a moment that," or "Today I want to share 3 ideas that will change how you think about." The opening is your first impression. Spend extra time crafting it. The audience decides in the first 30 seconds whether you're worth listening to. Transitions are the glue that holds your presentation together. Without them, your talk feels like a disconnected list of points. With them, it feels like a clear flowing argument. There are dozens of transition phrases and you should learn them deliberately. To move from introduction to your first point, let me start by looking at, or the first thing I want to discuss is to shift between similar points, similarly, in the same way. Building on this, to shift between disagreeing points, however, on the other hand. That said, to emphasize importance, most importantly, what really matters here is to introduce an example. For instance, take the case of "Consider this." To transition to a visual, as you can see on this slide, take a look at this graph, memorize 5 or 6 transitions in each category, and your talks will sound far more polished and more professional immediately. When a chart or diagram appears on the screen, do not assume the audience can read it. Walk them through it. There is a standard formula for explaining visuals and it works every time. First, orient them. Tell them what kind of chart this is and what the axes represent. Second, point out the main pattern. What is the headline, the most important thing they should notice? Third, give the supporting detail, specific numbers, comparisons, anomalies. Fourth, conclude with the implication. So what does this mean? Why does it matter? Useful phrases. This chart shows the x-axis represents, the y-axis represents. As you can see, the key point here is this means that never put a chart on screen and stay silent. Never put a chart on screen and read every label. Both extremes lose the room. Guide them slowly, deliberately through what they are seeing. A presentation is not a monologue. It is a relationship between you and the audience, and you have to actively maintain that relationship from start to finish. Here are concrete techniques. Ask rhetorical questions. How many of you have experienced? Invite participation by show of hands who has worked with. Use the audience's names if you know them. Make eye contact with different parts of the room, not just one friendly face. Vary your tone of voice. Never let it go flat. Move on stage if the format allows it. Tell a short story or anecdote.
Use humor sparingly but warmly. Pause deliberately after important points so the audience can absorb them. The single biggest engagement killer is reading from your slides in a monotone. Do anything other than that. The audience can read. They came to hear you. Give them you, not your slides.
The Q&A section is where your credibility is really tested. Here is how to handle it well. First, listen to the entire question before formulating an answer. Do not interrupt. Engineers love to answer the first 3 words of a question, but you will often answer the wrong question that way. Second, paraphrase the question back to confirm you understood it correctly and so the rest of the room hears it clearly. Third, answer concisely. Do not lecture. Stick to 2 or 3 sentences when possible. Fourth, if you do not know the answer, say so honestly. That is good question. I do not have that data, but let me follow up with you afterwards. Honesty builds far more credibility than improvisation. Fifth, thank the questioner before moving on. Q&A handled with grace and confidence is often what the audience remembers most about your entire presentation. Just like the opening, the closing carries disproportionate weight. The last thing you say is the thing the audience remembers most. So do not end with "that is all, any questions." That is the weak default. Instead, close with intention. There are 3 elements of a strong closing. First, restate your key message in a memorable way, not word for word, but reframed. Second, summarize your main points briefly, 3 quick bullets that the audience can carry with them. Third, end with a clear call to action. What do you want them to do, think, decide, or feel as a result of this talk? Useful phrases to summarize the main thing I want you to remember is: in conclusion, I urge you to thank you for your attention. A strong, deliberate closing leaves the audience with a sense of completion and purpose. It is the difference between a talk that fades and a talk that sticks. Not every presentation is the same. The register, meaning the level of formality you use, has to match the situation. A formal register is used at conferences, defenses, client pitches, executive briefings. The vocabulary is precise, the sentences are complete, the structure is explicit. You say, "I would like to discuss the data indicates." In conclusion, an informal register is used in team meetings, internal stand-ups, casual presentations among colleagues. The vocabulary is more relaxed, contractions are fine, sentences can be shorter. You say, "Let us talk about the data shows." So, to wrap up, the skill is not picking one register and using it always. The skill is reading the room, knowing the audience, and matching your register to what fits. Mismatched register, too formal in a casual room, too casual in a formal room, feels off and audiences notice it instantly. Engineers love data. Audiences remember stories. The trick to great technical communication is combining the two. Storytelling is not about turning your talk into a fairy tale. It is about giving your data a narrative arc. Every story has the same shape: a situation, a complication, a resolution. Apply that to your technical content. The situation: here is what we were trying to do. The complication: here is the problem we ran into. The resolution: here is how we solved it, and here is what we learned. Suddenly, your dry technical update becomes something the audience can follow, remember, and even retell to others. Use specific examples. Name real people. Describe the moment of realization when things clicked. Audiences do not remember the 7th bullet point on slide 12. They remember the story you told about the bug that almost shipped to production. Tell more stories. Let us be honest, public speaking is stressful, especially for engineers who often spend most of their time alone with code rather than in front of audiences. Stage fright is normal, even experienced speakers feel it. The question is not how to eliminate it, but how to manage it. Here are techniques that actually work. First, prepare so thoroughly that you could give the talk in your sleep. Most stage fright comes from under-preparation. Second, breathe deeply before going on stage. Slow, full breaths reset your nervous system. Third, focus on the message, not on yourself. The audience is not judging you, they are listening to your idea. Fourth, accept that nervousness is energy and channel it into enthusiasm rather than fear. Fifth, practice in front of a real person, not just in your head. Stress does not go away completely, but it gets manageable, and eventually it even becomes useful. Saying no is one of the most underrated communication skills, and engineers especially struggle with it. We want to be helpful, we want to be team players, so we say yes to every request and end up overloaded, missing deadlines, delivering poor quality.
Learning to say no professionally is essential. The key is not to refuse rudely or apologetically. The key is to refuse clearly with a reason and ideally with an alternative. Useful phrases: I would like to help, but my current commitments mean I cannot take this on this week. Or I do not think I am the right person for this. Have you considered? Or I can do this, but it would mean delaying X. Which would you prefer? Saying no is not a failure. It is a sign that you understand priorities, that you respect your own time, and that you value the quality of your work. Practice it.
We are coming to the end of this course, and I want to leave you with the things that matter most. 3 big takeaways. First, communication is not a soft skill, it is a hard skill. With rules, structures, and techniques you can practice and improve. Treat it like learning a programming language deliberately, systematically, with reps. Second, listening matters as much as speaking, often more. The engineers who get ahead are the ones who fully understand the problem before they propose a solution. Practice the 4 phases. Use the 6 techniques. Third, every presentation is built before you stand up. Audience analysis, key message, structure, vocabulary. Do the preparation, and the delivery takes care of itself. Communication skills compound over a career. The investment you make now in this course in your remaining years here will return value for the rest of your professional life. Use it well.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention, your engagement, and your willingness to take this material seriously. Communication is, in a real sense, the most human thing we do as engineers. Code is wonderful. Machines are wonderful, but in the end, every engineering project is a project run by people for people with people. The skills you have built in this course, defining clear messages, listening actively, presenting professionally, handling questions, managing stress, these are the skills that will let you do your best technical work and will let your best work be seen and adopted by others. I encourage you to keep practicing, speak in public whenever you get the chance, volunteer for presentations, listen more than you talk in meetings, reflect on your communication after every important conversation. Do that, and in 5 years you will be unrecognizably better than you are today. Good luck, and thank you again.